Hello, and welcome wrestling fans to today's video. Today we are focusing on the life and tragic passing of one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. So let's get stuck right into it with Jon Huber. More famously known as Luke Harper and Brody Lee. We all remember the life of Brody Lee for his notable role in the wrestling industry, known as Luke Harper in WWE. He was part of the Wyatt family and later became a member of the Bludgeon Brothers. His impactful performances and unique character contributions made him a respected figure among fans and fellow wrestlers. After his release from WWE, we all thought he would disappear into obscurity. Fortunately for us fans, Brody Lee, known as the Exalted One, joined All Elite Wrestling in March 2020. As the leader of the Dark Order, he played a pivotal role in the promotion, bringing a dominant and mysterious presence to the faction. His notable moments include capturing the AEW TNT Championship and leading the Dark Order to prominence. Tragically, Brody Lee, also known as Jon Huber, passed away on December 26, 2020, leaving a lasting impact on the wrestling community. In this video, we will explore the man, the myth, and the legend that we all know as Brody Lee. Born as Jon Huber on December 16, 1979 in Rochester, New York. Like many professional wrestlers, he likely developed an interest in the sport early on, eventually pursuing a career in wrestling. Unfortunately, after a lot of research, there's not actually any specific details about his childhood experiences and upbringing are not extensively documented in the public domain. The same can be said about his teenage years. Again, there is very little to elaborate on here, except that he went on to pursue a career in professional wrestling, gaining recognition for his talent and contributions to the industry. Under the ring names Brody Lee and later Luke Harper, before again resorting back to his previous name, Brody Lee. According to Brody in an interview, he was first trained in a school in Rochester, New York, under the tutelage of sick Rick Matrix, who had some Mid-South fame for getting chased out of a building by Bull Payne after doing something in the ring, which Payne didn't really approve of. Brody claimed that he, although Matrix was crazy and had a screw loose, he trained me and he trained me well, also commenting on how it gave him a good introduction to the really screwed up wrestling world. While trying to break into the world of wrestling, a green Jon Huber was doing ring crew for Ring of Honor, where he would travel with Donna Marcos. There he was friends with Blit from Special K, and also Shaw Samuels, who at the time was going by the name Ash Samuels. It was Samuels who came up with the name of Brody Lee for Huber in a diner one day, taking it from a character played by Jason Lee called Brody Bruce in the comedy movie Mallrats. Brody wrestled for 3 main promotions for the first 3 years of his professional career. These were Rochester Pro and WA Upstate and PWU. It was the promoter from Rochester Pro that booked him for PW due to the promoters being friends from the two companies. Brody was used mostly as a job guy at first for the likes of the Blue Meanie, Shark Boy, Colt Cabana, Austin Aries, Roderick Strong, and Bobby Fish, all of whom have went on to also have successful careers within the wrestling business. According to Brody himself, Roderick Strong and Austin Aries beat the crap out of him as he never really knew any better, and because they were already known faces from the promotion Ring of Honor. Moving on to 2007, he went to work in the 2 biggest promotions in Philadelphia area, Chikara and CCW, where he carried on his feud with the Olsen twins. 2008 was when he started working in IWA Mid-South, where he started programs with the likes of Ian Rotten, BJ Whitmer, and Chris Hero. He started to wrestle in Ring of Honor around the same time as well, where he was set to have a big storyline with Necro. Out of his 18 matches there, 16 of them was with Necro. Brody believed that the Ring of Honor bookers didn't really see anything in him, and he wasn't really happy there. So he felt bitter about the experience and eventually got over it. But how they couldn't see anything in him is beyond belief. This big man was pretty polished by this point, and it just seems ridiculous now that they could drop the ball on someone of his stature. He obviously thought he belonged there, but that's just the wonderful world of wrestling for you. Luckily, he still had Chikara to fall back on, where he had some of his most memorable matches with the likes of Claudio Castagnoli, who had issued a challenge to Brody after Brody was continually beating on smaller wrestlers as part of his storyline. Brody had 4 amazing matches with Claudio, with the first happening on April 20th, 2008, and the last of the 4 matches ending the feud in Chikara's first ever steel cage match, where Brody lost to Castagnoli. 2008 was also the first time he aligned himself with Eddie Kingston and Grizzly Redwood, where they formed a faction which they would call the Roughnecks. This 3 were pretty dominant at that time, scoring up to the likes of Losis, Kareem Hernandez, Sammy Callahan, Bryan Danielson, and Dave Taylor. Later, Kingston would stop teaming with them, which left Redwood and Brody to make the easy decision to become a tag team. They quickly ate through the competition and was given a shot at the tag belts. On October 17, 2009, 0-point abs, they would lose this match in 2 straight falls to the Colony. Following this, Brody wasn't too happy with Redwood's performance, and after giving him one more chance to prove himself worthy of teaming with him, on October 19, 2009, Lee smashed him in the face after losing a match to the Osirian Portal and effectively ending the Roughneck stable. It would be 6 months before we would finally see the long-anticipated return of Redwood, when on April 24th he would appear as a surprise opponent to Brody. But try as he may, Redwood just wasn't up to the task and got defeated by Brody. Brody would be eliminated in the Countdown Showdown Battle Royal on August 29, 2010 by Redwood after Brody was dominating the match. Around 2 months after the Battle Royal, on 23rd of October, Brody was defeated in a match with Dasher Hatfield. In a loss that was not expected, this would spark the return of the Roughnecks only weeks later on November 20th, 2010, after Brody and Grizzly had earned each other's respect. On January 23rd, the following year of 2011 would signal the end of Brody's time at Chikara, where, after suffering a real-life injury, was forced to pull out of Chikara's tournament to crown the inaugural Grand Champion. During his recovery, Brody would go on to sign a developmental contract with the WWE, and this would signal the end of his time at Chikara. Brody would make his final appearance on 25th of March, 2012, where he would stand toe-to-toe with his old Roughneck partner Eddie Kingston in a match for the Chikara Grand Championship. Brody would take the defeat to Kingston and say his farewell to the fans as he prepared to make the jump to the WWE. On March 12, 2012, Brody would make his debut for FCW Florida Championship Wrestling under his new ring name, Luke Harper. He would have his first match on May 18th in a house show. It was only a matter of months after arriving there at FCW when on August 2012, the WWE rebranded the company and started calling it, as it is known today, as NXT. Brody would get his first televised appearance on NXT on November 7th, where he would be introduced as Bray Wyatt's first son, Luke Harper, in the soon-to-be dominating faction called the Wyatt family. This family would later be joined by Eric Rowan, who was also another big man there. Rowan and Harper would team up to be a dominating tag team that would do the will of their leader, Bray Wyatt. On January 9th, 2013 episode of NXT, Rowan and Harper would defeat Percy Watson and Yoshitatsu in their first ever match as a tag team. There, they showed that they had what it took to work in a totally different environment than any of the other promotions known as indies. They would once again find themselves up against Watson and Tatsu in the opening round of the NXT Tag Team Championship Tournament. There, they got the win again, sending them into the semifinals where they got another win, this time over Bo Dallas and Michael McGillicuddy. With thanks to the outside interference of Bray, this allowed them to get to the finals, where they would face Adrian Neville and Oliver Gray. Harper and Rowan were unable to win this time, costing them the belts. The Wyatt family would go on to dominate the opposition for the rest of their time at NXT, until the WWE aired vignettes of the Wyatts on May 27, 2013. These vignettes were designed to show the Wyatts in a setting showing their family's backwards origin. On July 8th of 2013, the Wyatt family made their debut on the WWE's flagship show Raw, where they attacked Kane. Harper made his in-ring debut on SmackDown with his tag partner Rowan, and they just ran through everyone who got in their way. During this time, they fought against the likes of Goldust and Cody Rhodes and The Shield before acting as a support for Bray, who was up against John Cena before starting their own feud with the Usos, who were on the side of Cena. Harper and Rowan then went on to have 2 matches with the Usos, where they were unsuccessful on both occasions, to take the tag belts. On September 29, 2014, there were more vignettes of Harper and Rowan being released from the power of Bray. Wyatt prompting Harper and Rowan to go their separate ways to try their hand at singles competition. Harper started a feud with Dolph Ziggler that carried on over the weeks before Harper joined the faction Team Authority with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon for the upcoming Survivor Series match, which was for full control of Raw. The Authority lost this match with Dolph Ziggler winning for Team Cena. Harper finally won Intercontinental Championship gold on 17th of November, 2014, when Seth Rollins interfered, giving him the win. Ziggler would eventually win the title back on the next pay-per-view called Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, and ending a 27-day reign. Harper reunited with the Wyatt family from 2015 to 2017, having some great storylines with Bray Wyatt and a few tag matches with the likes of Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, the Brothers of Destruction, Kane, and The Undertaker. the Dudley Boys, Tommy Dreamer, and Rhino. During this time, the Wyatt family was fast becoming the #1 faction in the WWE at that time. They were wrecking their way through all the competition, including Kane and The Undertaker. On March 21st, 2016, Harper injured his knee on an untelevised match, which caused him to be out of action for a little under half a year. As the injury was pretty serious, it turned out that he not only dislocated his patella, but he also tore his medial patella femoral ligament. Unfortunately for Harper, he would go on to miss the upcoming 2016 WWE Draft. He would, however, return to action on October 5th, 2016, to team with Kevin Owens against Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins at a house show. Randy Orton was another one who has just recently joined the Wyatt family, and he was teaming up with Bray Wyatt, where they managed to win the SmackDown Tag Team Championship at the recent pay-per-view Tables, Ladders, and Chairs on December 4th, 2016. Later that week, they were to announce that Harper would become part of the team, turning it into a trio where they would start wrestling under the Freebirds rule, where any two of the three can wrestle at any time. On December 27th episode of SmackDown, Harper, along with Orton, would compete in a 4-way elimination match in an effort to keep the titles in the family. Unfortunately for the Wyatt family, they would not win this one, and the belts were won instead by American Alpha. The Wyatt family would get their rematch on January 10th, 2017 edition of SmackDown, where they were defeated again by American Alpha. Tensions were brewing between the Wyatt family members, mainly Harper and Orton. While the two were shoving each other around, Harper accidentally gave Wyatt a super kick. All these issues between Harper and Orton had led to the two having a match with each other. The match took place on January 24th edition of SmackDown. It was a brutal match, and Orton was a beast in it and dominated most of it before hitting an RKO to pick up the win. After the bell rang, Bray Wyatt entered the ring and helped Harper to his feet before attacking Harper with the Sister Abigail. Harper wouldn't have to wait long before he got the chance to get his own back, as by January 29th, the Royal Rumble was here. Harper would enter at number 25, when by this time both Orton and Wyatt were already in the ring. Harper would immediately go after them both before eliminating Apollo Crews. But seconds later, Goldberg has tossed Harper over the top rope to the floor. On January 31st, 2017 edition of SmackDown, we got to see the softer side of Harper as he made the full transition from heel to babyface as he stood by WWE Champion John Cena, as they confronted Wyatt and Orton. Moving on to February 12th, 2017 at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, Harper was again defeated by Orton. He was also unsuccessful in a #1 contender match with AJ Styles to see who would be facing the WWE's champion, Bray Wyatt. After Wyatt defeated Cena for the title, moving on to April, the second now Harper was taking part in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, where he was eliminated by Titus O'Neil. After WrestleMania, Harper would find himself facing the returning Eric Rowan at the Backlash pay-per-view. On May 21st, 2017, Harper would win this match. Harper would then take part in the Independence Day Battle Royal to determine who would be the #1 contender for the United States Championship on the 4th of July episode of SmackDown. AJ Styles would be the eventual winner of this, and this would be the last time we would see Harper for several months, as he disappeared off television for a while. On October 10th, 2018, Harper would be reunited with his Wyatt family, brother Eric Rowan. This would be the first appearance of the Bludgeon Brothers, and also the first time he would drop his ring name, Luke Harper, named for the shorter version of just Harper. They would be a dominant team for a while, making short work of some of their opponents. Their first match back would be against the Hype Brothers on November 21st, 2018, before having a squash match at Clash of Champions on December 17th with Breezango. Getting into 2018, the year the Bludgeon Brothers would become the SmackDown Tag Team Champions after defeating the Usos at WrestleMania 34 on April 8th. They would then successfully defend the titles when they gave the Usos their rematch on April 27th at Greatest Royal Rumble. They would give Luke Gallows and Carl Williams a title shot on June 17th, 2018 at the infamous Money in the Bank pay-per-view, where they once again successfully defended the titles. They would also clash with another unusual pairing of Kane and Daniel Bryan, known as Team Hell No, on July 15th, 2018 at the pay-per-view Extreme Rules. Moving on to August 19th, 2018, at the pay-per-view SummerSlam, Harper and Rowan would defend their titles against The New Day. Although The New Day would win this match, Harper and Rowan would retain the titles by getting themselves disqualified 2 days later on August 21st edition of SmackDown. The New Day would end the 135-day reign of terror from the Bludgeon Brothers when they got another title shot in a no disqualification match, which was most probably due to an injury sustained by Rowan on his right bicep, as he tore the muscle, which also caused the team of Harper and Rowan to end. Due to Eric Rowan's injury, Harper was also kind of sidelined as he went on to make a surprise appearance on September 6th, 2018 NXT House Show, where he unsuccessfully challenged Ricochet for his South American Championship. On December 4th, 2018, Harper would go on to have surgery on his wrist. This would keep Harper out of action for around 3 months. On March 9th, 2019, he would make his return in a house show from his hometown of Rochester against Mojo Rawley, before making his televised return on May 14th, 2019 WrestleMania Access, where he went up against Dominic Mysterio, which was part of the Worlds Collide special. On April 7th, 2019, Harper would be eliminated by Braun Strowman in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale pre-show brawl at WrestleMania 35. After the biggest event of the year, Harper went on to face EC3 in a dark match before a SmackDown episode, where it was rumored his push was canceled because the chairman of the WWE, Vince McMahon, didn't like what he saw. As we all know, everything goes past the boss first. He was set to start a feud with Sami Zayn. This felt like the beginning of the end for Luke Harper with the biggest wrestling company in the world. So bad he felt about this, he asked for his release on April 16th, 2019. This, of course, was denied by McMahon, as there was still at least 6 months left on his contract. Plus, Vince added another 6 months as well, due to time off from being injured previously. So by mid-July, Harper was back on the road with the company. Now to September 15th, 2019, and back, using the complete ring name of Luke Harper. He would make his televised return at the Clash of Champions to attack Roman Reigns, who was having a match with Harper's former bludgeon brother, Eric Rowan. Following the Clash of Champions on SmackDown Live, Daniel Bryan would be attacked by Harper while being confronted by Rowan. Roman Reigns tried to make the save, only to also be beaten by the pair. This would lead to a tag match with Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan taking on Rowan and Harper on October 6th, 2019, Hell in a Cell event. Rowan and Harper would lose the match. This would be Rowan and Harper's last ever match together, as Rowan was drafted to Raw on October 11th, 2019, and Harper would stay with SmackDown. October 31st, 2019, Harper would have his very last televised event, where he competed in a battle royal at Crown Jewel that he lost, which was held in Saudi Arabia. Less than a month later, on November 26th, 2019, John Huber filed a trademark for Brody Lee, the former wrestling ring name before he had Luke Harper. 12 days later, on December 8th, 2019, the WWE announced that Luke Harper had been released from his WWE contract. It was on March 18th, 2020, on an episode of AEW Dynamite, that Brody Lee made his return to professional wrestling as the Exalted One. Unfortunately for us fans, it was in the middle of a cough and sneeze situation where there were only empty arenas to work from. This, in my view, had a massive impact on his debut, and it just shows how the atmosphere of full arenas could have made this new chapter one of his best. At the beginning of this run, as the Exalted One and leader, the Dark Order. So, Cal Uncensored was the first to challenge, and basically got wiped out by the Dark Order. Brody was undefeated for weeks before receiving his first loss at the hands of Jon Moxley, when he challenged for Moxley's AEW World Championship. Over the next few months, Brody would recruit more members of the Dark Order by bringing Colt Cabana and Anna Jay into the fold. On August 22nd, 2020, Brody was in a match with Cody Rhodes for Cody's AEW's TNT Championship, where he won the belt in a surprisingly quick match before Brody and the rest of the Dark Order started attacking all Cody's allies, including QT Marshall and Cody's brother, Dustin Rhodes. On one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year for AEW. On September 5th, 2020, Brody teamed up with some of the Dark Order, where they took a loss to QT Marshall, Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, and Cody Rhodes in an 8-man tag. After that, he had 2 successful matches when he defended his AEW's TNT Championship against Cody Rhodes again, and then Orange Cassidy on September 9th and September 23rd, 2020, before being challenged to a dog collar match by Cody for the TNT Championships. On October 7th, 2020 episode of Dynamite, Brody lost the title and ended his 55-day reign with the title. Something wasn't quite right with Brody in the match, and he ended up taking a break from wrestling while dealing with an undisclosed illness that started to plague him around this time. Sadly, that would be the last time we would ever see Brody Lee. On December 26th, 2020, at the young age of just 42 years old, Jonathan Huber died of idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, leaving behind 2 children and his wife, Amanda Huber. We will never forget this mammoth of a man who had so much more to give and was taken far too young. Big man, you brought so much joy to the world of professional wrestling, and you will never ever be forgotten. Rest in peace, brother.